Well, welcome back to the podcast, Bird Dogs Forever. I am Chris Hagaseth. I am happy to speak with you today, and I have a frog in my throat. So, I'm apologizing at the get-go. If I make barnyard noises with my throat and my nose, I apologize, accept my apology, because I'm not going to do it anymore. I'll try to muffle it, but you know what it's like. Hey, we've got a guest today. His name is John Gosselin. John and I have a really interesting history. It starts out like this. I came across a magazine a number of years ago called the Grouse Point Almanac. I was enchanted by this magazine. Really glossy, really pretty. The whole thing, you hold it in your hand and it felt like it felt expensive. Well, I know almost nothing about ruffed grouse hunting, so I made John's acquaintance when the television show got going. And John was a very gracious guy saying, look, I'll meet you in New England. I'll show you a good time. Well, the first part of the good time is he introduced me to his absolutely nearly psychotic dentist friend named Bill Mooney. And Bill is a crack-up. He's great. He's got a red Irish setter that was really a fine dog, and we had a wonderful hunt. We got our limited woodcock. And the next day, John and I went out, only to find that the guide, who shall remain nameless, stood us up, and we were in totally unfamiliar territory. Now, if you know grouse hunters, they have their coverts, or as they like to call them, their covers. I don't know why they spell it covert. It is something demented in them. John didn't have a single covert cover identified anywhere. And the weather was very marginal, lots of wind. John and I hunted the whole day, and we never got a ruffed grouse on camera. And so John and I are the two people who failed to make a television show together. But John is here, and now I'm going to welcome him. John, good to have you along. Say hello to our listeners.
Hi, Chris. Hi, everybody out there. Nice to be here.
Okay. I'm kind of interested in your story. How did you ever get into this business of trying to make your living with an upland game magazine? Why don't you start anywhere you want to?
It's a popularly asked question to me. And basically, I had been working for other people for my entire post-college career in various sales and marketing functions. And I just decided that it was time to do something for me. I've always been a passionate ruffed grouse and woodcock hunter, born and raised here in New England, and I decided that there was a place in the market for that particular niche type of publication, and that's how it all got started back in the first half of 1998.
1998? Wow, man, I got in touch with you shortly after you got rolling.
Yeah, it wasn't much more than a year or so after, I think.
As a matter of fact, I think I might have almost a complete set of your magazines. Because I
Charter
remember,
subscriber.
Yeah.
Hold on to them. They're going to be worth something.
I believe me, I have the original set of hardbound American Sportsman magazines from the 1960s. Those are going to be worth something someday. Okay,
I think they probably are now.
They probably are. All right, now tell me how you got started. What does one do to go from saying I want to start a magazine to starting it?
Well, I think the most important factor there was to find other people who had editorial experience and find people who have the artistic design experience and bring them together, which is what we did. A premiere issue of what was then the Grouse Point Almanac came into being in the summer of 1998.
Okay, after a few years you've changed and it became the Uploand Almanac. What about the transition there?
Honestly, it was scary because when you have a product that you know sells, but yet make the change anyway, it is a bit of a daunting task. But after about 4 years, we decided that we had penetrated the grouse hunting, the ruffed grouse hunting niche quite well, and that we could make take it to the next level, but yet keep it within the realm of upland bird hunting. And that's exactly what we did back in, starting with the spring 2003 issue of what is now the Uploand Almanac.
As I recall, didn't that kind of correspond to the time that Wing and Shot went under?
As a matter of fact, since you mentioned it, I wouldn't have mentioned that on my own, Chris, but since you did, yes, Wing and Shot, after we quietly made the decision here to change the title of the magazine from the Grouse Point Uploand Almanac to the Uploand Almanac, an announcement came that Wing and Shot, which was owned by Prime Media, a large magazine conglomerate, that their title was folding. I'm sure it wasn't because of what we were doing. It just was lucky for us anyway.
Well, I can have opinions, and I can just speak off the top of my head. I'm like a radio talk show host. And here's my opinion. I like a magazine that's written and managed by people who do the sport. Frankly, in my contacts with Prime Media, I have felt that I've been dealing much more with businessmen than hunters. And that's why I like your magazine, Steve Smith's magazine, Shooting Sportsman, because these are magazines by sportsmen. You start out with a love of the sport, and then you try to make it happen. But I'm not going to talk it down. I enjoyed Wing and Shot a lot, and I was sorry to see it go. What are the joys of your job, and what are the headaches?
Well, I'll start with the headaches. Ad deadlines are probably the biggest headache. Having to just be a pain in the neck and chase people. In addition to being publisher of the magazine, I also have assumed the responsibilities of advertising sales. It can be a daunting task. Of course, through the course of the startup, it's always a major headache to have to sweat out the printing invoices and such. And, it's like any other business. Startups are difficult. It takes 3 to 4 years before, you can actually say, okay, we're there now, and we're running on our own and paying our own way. The enjoyable parts of the job, well, this is one of them right here, being able to have these kind of opportunities to speak to the world about upland bird hunting. Of course, there are other perks that go with the job, such as being able to go on wonderful hunts in fabulous destinations, experience other types of upland bird hunting and other types of geography, terrain.
Tell me where you have been in the last year. I recall having a very great case of the covets when I saw your travels. Can you just fill us in a little on that?
Well, in the past year, I have been to state of Chihuahua in Mexico on a Mearns quail hunting trip, which was absolutely fabulous. I have been to Nicaragua shooting white-winged doves as well as blue rock pigeons, which is, again, a lot of different, a lot of people don't think of Nicaragua as a wing shooting destination, but it is. I have been to the Dakotas in the past year, been to New Brunswick hunting grouse and woodcock, in addition to, right here in my own backyard in Vermont.
Now, do I understand that you had a really rough time on your woodcock hunt getting those things on tape?
Yes, any of us out there who have ever hunted grouse and woodcock know that their environment is very, very difficult, not conducive to filming, that's for sure, let alone just trying to hunt them. Being able to get a flying woodcock, and even more so difficult, a flying grouse on film in that type of thick jungle-type environment is challenging at best.
Well, of course, I shot that show with Bill Mooney, which, by the way, was remarkable in that we limited out in woodcock, and you actually see 5 birds clearly drop from the sky, and I have to just praise my photographer crew for that. But the other thing that really makes it difficult with ruffed grouse is that they're so spooky. And instead of being one hunter and a dog, you're one hunter, 2 hunters, a dog or 2, and 2 cameramen. Well, to the ruffed grouse, that sounds like Sherman's army. And it's very, very hard to get close.
It is.
Have you gone overseas? Have you hunted on other continents?
I have. I've hunted Argentina. I've had the good fortune of hunting in South Africa, not once but twice.
That's what I was thinking about when I asked the question. What's hunting in South Africa like?
South Africa is one of the most beautiful places in the world. Reminds me a lot of the western United States. You have desert-looking areas. You have prairie looking areas, very mountainous areas with lots of volcanic rock. And, sometimes I would think I was in Montana or Arizona or New Mexico. Very, very similar climate, but just bountiful with upland birds as well as waterfowl. We hunted the various species of francolins, which are kind of a cross between a grouse and a partridge.
Now, how much is the francolin like a sage grouse?
Not much. It's like it at all. Really, it's a smaller bird. The francolin is, I would say about the size of a chucker partridge, and they come in a number of subspecies. There's the Swainsons, there's the Orange River. There are, I don't have it off the top of my head, but there are at least 6, maybe 8 different subspecies of francolins to be found in South Africa.
Well, my friend, my covets continue. Coveting is...
Did I tell you about the red grouse shooting in England, Chris?
John, I'm going to have to say goodbye to you for now, but I'm going to have you back on the show. And when you come back on the show, I want to talk to you about grouse proper, and we can include the red grouse in Scotland by all means. So
I'd love to do it.
Yeah, well, I'll get back to you here in the not-distant future and offer your good graces to our listeners. So thanks, John. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm Chris Hagaseth, Bird Dogs Forever, the podcast. Remember, we have the premium podcasts coming. And it's like subscribing to a magazine. Because if you want to have quality and video coming via podcast, we've got to have a revenue stream. So keep your eye on our website. You'll see how we can do it. But we're still always available for the free subscribers too. So have a wonderful time. I'm signing off and be back in a week or two. Thanks a lot.